Thank you for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We are committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, regulatory actions, and political maneuvers in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact your freedoms.
Please support the State of Freedom by becoming a monthly supporter or member of the Warrior Circle, or by advertising your business, your nonprofit, or your event with us. Go to freedomstate.us. We are bypassing the mainstream media cartel and the establishment political parties in Louisiana and coming directly to you, spreading the uncensored voice of freedom across Louisiana and beyond. Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry about that false start. My finger slipped and I hit the outro instead of the intro. But welcome to the State of Freedom, where we are grounded in faith in the Constitution, where we're committed to giving voice to the truth, living with courage, and taking action. Today is Tuesday, March 3rd. It's 10 a.m. Central, and I am Danielle Walker. I'm your solo host today. Chris and I had to divide and conquer. He's at the Capitol this morning for the Voting System Commission meeting, and he and a number of other great people will be testifying today, and he'll be back tomorrow for Warrior Wednesday, ready with a report on how that meeting went. Well, we are coming to you live on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network, on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. You can always catch us later on our audio-only podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast. Well, today on the State of Freedom, we are speaking with William Most. He's a friend of the show. He's the attorney for Dr. Foresta Amame, who was removed from her lead research role after disputes surrounding the handling of her study's findings. Let me bring William forward. Good morning, William. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Danielle. Thanks for having me on the show.
You are most welcome, and you're going to have to bear with a non-attorney this morning, so be gentle. I think we'll be just fine. I wanted to start out with a scripture of the day, as we always do. Today's passage is Psalm chapter 34, verses 19 to 22. And it says, "Even when bad things happen to the good and godly ones, the Lord will save them and not let them be defeated by what they face. God will be your bodyguard to protect you when trouble is near. Not one bone will be broken. But the wicked commit slow suicide, for they hate and persecute the lovers of God. Make no mistake about it. God will hold them guilty and punish them. They will pay the penalty. But the Lord has paid for the freedom of his servants, and he will freely pardon those who love him. He will declare them free and innocent when they turn to hide themselves in him." And it's amazing. We're living in a time right now where the truth is under such vicious assault. It seems to be that way in every area of life. And there's so many narratives that are swirling, trying to explain to us what it is we are experiencing. For example, this week, it's the war in Iran. Is the war about this, or is it about that? Is it justified, or is it an unsolicited projection of force? And sometimes we just need to silence the noise and sit with not knowing the answer and not needing to know the answer. It's amazing what that can do to our central nervous system when we let go of the need to have an opinion, let go of the need to take sides, let go of our need to be an expert or an accuser or in the middle of every single fight, especially in situations where they're really unknowable to us. We can't know what's really going on. But when we do that, and when we sit in silence with the Lord, we will begin to hear a soft resonance of truth, because the truth has a resonance. And It resonates inside of us. The best place to seek the truth is not in the news. We know that, folks. It's not on social media. Come on. The best place to seek the truth is in a quiet place with the Lord, because regardless of our opinion on a matter, it's the Lord who's going to vindicate the lovers of truth, and it's the Lord who's going to allow those who have lied, deceived, and mistreated others to be destroyed. They'll destroy themselves. That's what this scripture says. And the scriptures give us another reason to be very careful in our alignments with our words. In Matthew 12:37, Jesus himself says, "Your very words will be used as evidence against you, and your words will declare you either innocent or guilty." So my encouragement to us today, and really my challenge to us, is turn off the devices, get outside, get in a quiet place with the Lord. Ask him to silence the noise in your mind and your heart. Listen for the resonance of truth, and listen for the instruction for where you should be spending your energy, skills, and time. So, William, I know that you and Dr. Imami presented the truth in black and white letters to at her administrative hearing not too long ago on February 20th. Do you want to talk about that? Who did you present to, and how did the hearing go?
Yeah, it was pretty extraordinary. So, as you mentioned, I represent Dr. Fareshta Amami. She's a chemistry professor at Southeastern Louisiana University, a public university here in Louisiana. And she was born in Iran. She moved to the United
Wow.
States because she was coming from a place of no academic freedom, or little reduced academic freedom. And she left Iran because of threats from religious authorities there. And so
Wow.
she came to America hoping for freedom of speech, freedom of academic inquiry. That's what led her to this country. And in 2024, she became a citizen. She swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, which, as we've discussed, the Bill of Rights starts with the First Amendment, protecting freedom of speech. And so, there's a big question of whether America lived up to its promises of freedom of speech and academic inquiry. And it seems like, at least at Southeastern Louisiana University, it did not. And some of that truth came to light at this hearing on February 20th.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I mean, I couldn't understand at all this morning why the Lord kept pointing me to Iran, other than the fact that, it's swirling around. It's in the news. We know that people are being consumed by anxiety and fear over all that's going on. But it's amazing that Dr. Imami came here to get to be able to speak the truth freely, to be able to speak her side. Well, I mean, not even her side. She's a scientist. The side of truth freely. Period. And so we hope that she will have the opportunity to do that. She did have the opportunity to do that. Would you maybe just walk through and remind us of the presentation that was made? And I believe there were 6 or 7 members of this council or committee that she presented to. Maybe are you at liberty to say who they were and whether they were colleagues?
Yes. So on the 20th, we presented to the Grievance Committee, which is a committee made up of other faculty members at Southeastern Louisiana University who have part of this committee to hear out grievances by faculty members. And I'll give you the short version of what led us to this hearing, and then maybe we can talk about what happened at the hearing.
Perfect.
So what led up to this hearing was that last year, Dr. Imami, some of her findings from her research got into the press, and she had been chosen to be one of the principal investigators of a project at Southeastern that was doing research about Lake Maurepas. And this was research that was funded by a private company. So the company Air Products, a big corporation, paid millions of dollars to the university to do a bunch of research about Lake Maurepas. And the reason why is because Air Products wants to do a bunch of development in Louisiana that will involve carbon sequestration under the lake. And I think they wanted to show that, like, before they do their work, here's what the lake looks like.
Yeah.
Here's its level of pollution, level of issues, so that, they can say, we didn't cause those issues once we did our project. So it was a baseline research. Let's look at what the lake looks like before further industrial development. And so Dr. Imami was doing that work from 2022 to 2025. And she published papers, and some of those papers, the research made it into a news story in Louisiana in the Illuminator on June 19th. There was a story that said, the headline was, "Scientists find alarming levels of toxic metals pollution in Lake Maurepas." Because what her research had figured out was Lake Maurepas is more polluted than people thought. Heavy industry is probably a substantial contributor to that. And a lot of the toxins, a lot of the pollutants have settled into the sediment.
Yeah.
So if you do a lot of work in the lake, it may resuspend, bring up some of these old pollutants, right? So this started alarm bells going on all over the place. By the next day, we saw text messages saying there's a plan for Fereshta. 2 days later, it was explicit in an email that the plan was to remove her from the project. And sure enough, shortly thereafter, she was removed from her leadership role in the project.
And William, just to interrupt you for a second, you know that because you did a public information request and you were able to get all of those text messages and emails to kind of help build this case that her academic freedom is not being honored.
Exactly. You know, you were talking earlier about sources of truth. One of those sources for us, for me as a lawyer, but anyone can do this, you can submit a public records request to a public body. And that includes, you know, your city, your police department, and for public universities like Southeastern, they're subject to public records requests too. And you won't believe what people put in emails or text messages, forgetting that those are public records.
Yeah.
And here we got those emails, we got those text messages that very clearly showed after her research went public, the administrators came up with a plan to remove Dr. Amami.
And William, to your knowledge, has there been any other challenge to the administration of Southeastern on academic integrity, academic freedom grounds? Or they have been able to kind of just run roughshod over the professors?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not an isolated incident. There was also a professor, Dane Sherman, who spoke out to the media, and there was pushback on him from the administration. The group, there's a national group called FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. They have written repeated letters pointing out constitutional problems with the way that Southeastern's leadership interacts with the people who should have freedom of speech at that university,
Wow.
including professors.
Now-
They have media policy that's probably on its face in some ways violating the Constitution. So this is one example of a pattern of hostility to free speech and academic inquiry.
Now, where do we stand? Do you have a sense of the timeline for when she's going to get a decision? Because it's been more than 2 weeks, and it seems like every day that passes, you know, she's building a case for damages that could be used in a future suit if it needs to be.
Yeah, so it's a good question. We don't have a decision now. So what happened is after Dr. Amami was removed, and we found all these emails and text messages very clearly linking her removal to publicity around her research, we filed an academic grievance complaint, a complaint within the university saying the university has not lived up to its obligations to Dr. Amami, either under its own policies, which promise academic freedom,
Yeah.
or the US Constitution, which promises freedom of speech. And so there was a hearing on that, almost like a mini trial, where Dr. Amami presented her case, took witnesses testified, and there was opening and closing statements. And the university was able to put forward its side of the story too. And it was pretty extraordinary, Danielle. We got confirmation at that hearing of some things that were really significant. Particularly, one of the faculty members involved, one of the administrators, testified that the president of the university was personally involved in the decision to remove Dr. Amami.
Wow. Now, this is something that we suspected because of the email chain, but it's not something that was explicitly laid out in the emails.
That's right. And we called the president as a witness because we thought he was involved. He did not show up.
Wow.
He refused to be there to explain his actions. He no-showed.
So he's in contempt of the grievances committee.
The rules say that participation is voluntary, so he had the option to not show up, but his choice to refuse to testify, I think,
Yeah.
speaks louder than any words he could say.
I think so too. I think so too. That's incredible. What else did you find out?
The other thing we found out is that we had suspected is that they came up with the reasons to quote unquote fire her after they fired her, right? So if you look at the timeline, she was removed with no explanation. Then she started asking questions like, why have I been removed? The press does a story that says this was August 1st, quote, university sidelined scientists to expose toxic metals in Lake Maurepas. So it sure seemed like the university administrators had to come up with a reason retroactively to justify what they'd done. And we saw in emails that they were like digging through old stuff about Dr. Amami from like a year ago, more than a year ago, to try and come up with dirt on her to retroactively justify their removal of her. And we got that testimony. One of the administrators took the stand and said, yes, after they removed Dr. Amami, then she started looking for negative information on Dr. Amami, which is a pretty remarkable admission.
Wow, it is remarkable. And it's remarkable to hear that people were so forthcoming, considering it seems that the final decision for this is to be made by the president, who's the very person, I mean, their boss, ostensibly, in a lot of ways, if they're not tenured. It seems to me that it would be very hard to get a fair hearing. I was wondering if it was even possible.
Well, Danielle, I think you've hit on exactly one of the things that's very strange about this, which is this committee that we presented in front of, they make a recommendation to the university president about what to do with the grievance. But as you point out, the university president is directly involved. This grievance is about him because he was personally involved in the decision to remove Dr. Amami. So we did what I think is sort of logical. We asked him to recuse himself. We said, you can't possibly be the decision maker for a grievance about you, right? We sent him a letter, asked him to recuse, and Danielle, I bet you can guess whether he agreed to recuse himself.
Wow, so he dug in his heels and said, no, I got this. Oh,
he
wow.
refused to recuse, yes.
So everything that happens in this is going to point back to him. I am so, you know, Chris and I were talking about this yesterday as we were kind of going through what, you know, what's happened since the last time we spoke to you. And one of the things that we were really struck by was, I mean, this is a pickle of a situation for the president of Southeastern. I mean, he's, you know, at least he was looking guilty before. Now it seems pretty confirmed that he was not only complicit, but actively involved in this situation. And he, you know, he has two options in my view, and you can correct me, but he could either say I was wrong, or most probably you go to court.
I think that's plausible. You know, I mean, he could do the right thing here, right? He could restore her to her job. He could acknowledge what was going on here. We asked for an independent investigation, right? Because, you know, this directly implicates some of the highest people at Southeastern Louisiana University. We asked that they appoint an independent investigator to look into this, right? So that it's not our word, it's not their word. Let's have an independent, neutral body investigate this matter to see if they actually have legitimate reasons for terminating Dr. Amami. It was just a coincidence that it started happening the day after the publication of her research in the press, or was it more, I think more likely, an attempt to remove her? And we have a suspicion for why they tried to get rid of her, because it's a little strange. Why do they care so much about her research coming to light, right? Because this is a research university. They should be happy that they're going to press attention to the good work that the professors are doing. But as we dug through the emails, we got some clues that we think explain what's going on, which is that the university was getting millions of dollars from big business for this research. And this seemed great. And so they wanted to replicate it. They wanted to go and get other businesses to pay the university millions of dollars for other baseline studies. which is a perfectly legitimate thing to want to do.
Yeah.
But I think what happened is when the press came out about Dr. Amami's research showing that the pollution was worse than expected, I think they got worried that this was going to scare off some of the big businesses and they weren't going to give millions of dollars to the university. So they tried to shut Dr. Amami down.
Well, I want to pull on two threads there. The first one, you requested an independent investigation. Were you granted one? And is there already a procedure set up or for that kind of thing to take place?
Yeah, so we don't know yet whether
Okay.
they'll agree to that. The grievance committee still has not presented its decision. They're supposed to do it within 10 days of the hearing, which is just about now.
Yeah.
But we don't have an answer yet. And then I don't know of a specific procedure within the university's policy for an independent investigation, but they could certainly hire outside investigators.
Yeah.
Organizations do that all the time to do sort of a third party audit or third party investigation. It's a common thing that organizations do.
Yeah. And it's probably cheaper than putting an attorney on retainer. The other piece I wanted to pull on is just this kind of corruption and perverse way that universities are being funded. Do you see that as a, I mean, it seems like that is a part of the problem here, that it, if you look at it on your face, at least I do from an outside perspective, it seems that the funds were more important than the truth, and keeping the funders happy was more important than delivering the truth. So do you see that, like, by any chance, was that the case in the previous grievances that have been filed?
So the previous grievances that I know about dealt with other sort of free speech
Okay.
issues. And I think it's a good point. Like, I don't know that I think categorically it's unacceptable for private organizations to fund research at a public university,
Yeah.
but I think you've hit on exactly the need there. If you're going to do that, you have to have appropriate safeguards to make sure
Right.
that the money doesn't overwhelm the integrity of the research, right?
Yeah.
Because you could see, a difference between what the funder wants and what the truth leads to, right?
Yeah.
You need to have safeguards in place to make sure that the money doesn't corrupt the academic inquiry. And that's the idea behind promises of academic freedom, right? The policy that the university has. But unless those are actually carried out by the administrators involved, then it's only worth a piece of paper.
Yeah. And I have no love lost right now for Airgas with some of the projects they're trying to push forward in this state. But it doesn't mean that the president of the university didn't make an assumption on how the study should go either. I don't know if your FOIA, if your public records request revealed whether the company had been involved in that, or if it seemed to just be within the administration itself.
Yeah, so we don't know for sure. We didn't
Okay.
see emails or text messages coming from the company
Yeah.
putting pressure on. I think more likely the president was worried that these findings would scare off big business generally. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I
Yeah.
think that was his concern, and that led him to try and shut down someone who he perceived as impairing their ability to go on the road and sell this to a lot of big companies.
Yeah, and seeing the pattern that we're seeing with the president of Southeastern, I'm just going to make an assumption that perhaps he is not going to do the right thing by Dr. Amami. If that's the case, this administrative hearing seems to have been a very fruitful ground for a future lawsuit. But was it required? Is that part of the steps to getting to a lawsuit before you can file suit? Did you have to have this?
It's not required, but I think it's always good to give people the opportunity to do the right thing.
Yeah.
A lawsuit can be disruptive, it's often expensive. And so I think it's always good to give people an off ramp, an opportunity to do the right thing. And we try and do that whenever we can. And here they have a perfect opportunity to do the right thing.
Yeah, they do. And what I understood from just the research I did online was that the panel will give a formal recommendation to the president, and then the president makes the ultimate decision. Is that right? And then will you see that all of that documentation?
It's a good question. So I do believe we will get a copy of the recommendation.
Okay.
And then presumably we will receive some sort of information about what the president's decision is. And then it'll be up to Dr. Imami to decide what to do next.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, if you do file suit, or if she does file suit, what's the venue? Would you be filing in federal court with a constitutional violation or
Plausibly,
constitution?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because not every university is bound by the First Amendment, but public universities are, because public universities like LSU, Southeastern, those are parts of the government. And
Yeah.
so because they're parts of the government, they are bound by the state and federal constitutions, which means they have free speech obligations. They cannot shut down speech in the same way that a private university is more free to do so.
Yeah. Now, what do you think this case is going to mean for scientific integrity in Louisiana or broader, free speech rights, academic freedom? To me, this has the makings of a bellwether case.
It's a good question. Look, I don't know the future, but I do believe that constitutional rights are a process more than they are some words on a piece of paper, because words on a paper are important, right?
Yeah.
But it's the process of enforcing those rights that gives them vitality, right? So if no one is pushing and holding people accountable and enforcing those rights, then they have modest value. And
Yeah.
so I see Dr. Imami's courage in standing up, because this is a scary thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a very scary thing to challenge the very highest ranks of the organization that you're still a part of, because she was removed from being head of this project. She's still a professor there.
Yeah.
She has to deal with these people every day. And so the courage that she had to stand up to it, I think, is what gives the vitality to our rights.
And I was just thinking about this. I mean, they give you so much trouble. She's gone through so much grief over this. It was a project she was obviously passionate about, something that meant a great deal to her. Even if she gets everything back, she's in a super awkward position.
That's something I struggle with every day, with my clients, because, sometimes I can get compensation for my clients, sometimes I can get things reversed, but it never undoes the harm, right?
Yeah.
And things like this cause real disruption. I mean, Dr. Imami, she's not a political actor, she's not a lawyer, she's a scientist, right?
Yeah.
And she wants to do her science, she wants to focus on the science and do her work, and to be drawn into this fight with administration over rights, it is not what she wanted. It's not a fight she desired, but she has the courage to meet it where it is.
Yeah. Well, and she knew what her rights were, which I think is pretty awesome. Okay, so you mentioned, or I know during your public records request, you mentioned this the last time you came on, that this is kind of how your team uncovered some non-disclosure agreements between companies and different entities. Have y'all uncovered anything else that you would want to just share with the public?
Yeah, I think there's been a growing awareness of, this is sort of a separate issue, another way that the state is trying to keep things secret from the constituents. So, we generally have a right to know what our government is doing, right?
Yeah.
We have a right to know how they're spending money, what kind of promises they're making. Now, there are narrow exceptions, right? Things can be classified for national security reasons, right?
Sure.
But the general rule is government is supposed to be open, accessible, and truthful with people in that country, right? Louisiana is not living up to that obligation. And what we found out is that the governor's office and the Louisiana Economic Development Office have been using hundreds of non-disclosure agreements to keep the truth away from people. We saw this first in some of the development of the data centers up in North Louisiana, where I was blown away to see that a state legislator told the newspaper he could not tell his constituents the truth about his own bill because he'd signed an NDA. That's amazing.
Who is signing NDAs about their own legislation? That is so insane to me. I mean, isn't that like that is to me seems like it's a pact to lie because are you going to tell the legislators the truth about your legislation?
It's a great point. I mean, and it's not just state legislators. We've
Yeah.
seen local officials, school board members, mayors, because these big businesses want to be able to strike deals and get, tax breaks, public money, zoning, whatever. And they want to be able to negotiate and put pressure sometimes on local officials to get these deals without anybody knowing about it. And so it's a real problem because our public officials are signing these NDAs and then they're negotiating or sometimes agreeing to things and we don't even know about it. And it's our taxpayer money that's being put on the hook.
It's our taxpayer money, and I mean, who thinks that their local representative, whether it's a state legislator or a mayor or a police jury member, knows everything about something like a data center, or how the amount of water that it's going to take to cool the data center, or the amount of energy. Like, I'm not trying to strike these people. I'm just saying when this stuff is hidden, you're not the sole expert on this kind of thing. And that's why we have a public process, because other people have insights, other people have skills and knowledge that would be really important to inform this as the community makes the decision, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, that's why we have access to our officials so that we can let them know our perspective, bring in other expert advice, provide them with data or information that they might not have because the company that wants to build something big in the parish may not be giving all the information about the negative consequences, the cost, the risk to the public, right? And so
Yeah.
you need to have all voices heard. And when there's an NDA saying that the official can't talk to anybody about this, you totally disrupt that democratic process.
That's absolutely crazy. Well, William, thank you for spending some time with me this morning. Thank you for your fight for Dr. Amami and for the truth. Keep us posted. We thought for sure that we would know by today what happened, but since we don't, please keep us posted. We'd love to have you back on and give us the next steps and see what it is that the university comes back with. We are praying and hoping the best for Dr. Amami, and just thank her again for her courage, because this is such an important issue and it deserves to not be swept under the rug.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much for shining a light on this.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. God bless you, William. We'll talk to you soon. Well, before I go, I just want to make some announcements. Tomorrow is Warrior Wednesday, and we'll begin to lay out the priority legislation for the session, which starts next week on Monday. Just a reminder, Warrior Wednesdays are the episodes where subscribers drive the conversation in the chat. So wherever you're watching from, whether YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, um, wherever you're watching for, you'll be able to chat in, and we'll be engaging with you on that. We want to hear the questions that you have and the insight that you want to share with the viewers. And if you're not yet a subscriber to the State of Freedom, please join and support the show and help us keep this show growing in reach and expanding in impact. You can do that at join.freedomstate.us. Let me see if I can find that here. Here we go. Yeah, join.freedomstate.us. And Thursday, we will continue our march toward the legislative session with some discussions on the good, the bad, and the ugly of the legislation that's being brought forward. And a reminder, if you have not yet signed up for LCAG's call to actions, to the alerts, please do that so you can take action in these critical moments and support Chris's work at LCAG as well. You can do all of that at lcag.org. The action center is where you sign up for the alerts, and we will want you to make sure that you are keeping on top of those. We will do our best to get you information in real time. Well, today's been a joy. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you. We look forward to following this case as far as it goes. But I just hope that you have a wonderful day ahead. And like I said, Chris is at the Election Commission meeting at the legislature this morning. Quite a number of people from across the state have driven in this morning to be part of that. So if you want to tune in, I will drop the link. It's just at legis.la.gov. You can see the live broadcast. It started at 10, so we're about 35 minutes in. So I know that they have allowed for public comment, and Chris is among those commenting, along with a number of others like Bert Kale, I believe, some folks, some friends of ours from We the People Bayou community, and others. So be sure and tune in, but we'll get you the highlights of what happened tomorrow. Well, thank you again for spending some time with me today, and God bless.
Tigerland Properties. These are licensed professional realtors in Louisiana, commercial, residential, investments, whatever you choose to do. These people, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you want to invest, these people are the best in the business. They really are. Tigerland Properties, mainly they work in the Boot area of Louisiana, down in South Louisiana, but truly you could not be in better hands if you're buying or selling commercial, residential, or investing than Tigerland Properties. I encourage you to call them 225-320-3004. You'll want to make sure you're in good hands with commercial, residential, real estate, or investment. And they are the best. Fuego, it's just unbelievable. Whether it's the flame grilled carne asada or a signature mango margarita, I had one of those too. They're serving up a literal feast of freedom at Calle Fuego. It's just extraordinary. I love the owners, Andres and Jose. They run such a great restaurant. The service is extraordinary. The atmosphere is great. So if you're in Pineville in the Alexandria area or passing through, or if you live there, go to Calle Fuego and tell them the State of Freedom sent you.
Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Any follow-up actions, resources, and links to our sponsors will be in the show notes. All calls to action can be taken at lacag.org. That's LACAG.org.
To learn more about our work, become a monthly subscriber, supporter, or advertiser at freedomstate.us. The State of Freedom, the #1 conservative podcast in Louisiana.